It started off like a normal weekend. I was set to travel somewhere, but due to my lack of timing, I was late. Hey guys, sorry I'm late. I was joining Toko and Corey to plant koramame in Sasayama. Wow, Toko, they have a really good likeness of you. It's like looking into a mirror. This wasn't my first rodeo. Last year I went and farmed with Toko and his family. It's there where I learned the significance of koramame, or black beans. Last year, I was under the impression that we were planting edamame, something that I have consumed a number of times in America. And we were, but if you leave the beans in the ground for longer, they become koramame. They are eaten at the beginning of the year, and it's supposed to give some idea of internal strength. Whether a food does or doesn't give you strength is up to you, but when in Rome, as they say, the ride there was full of jokes. As we transitioned between city to countryside, we prepared for the work that was yet to come. We arrived and we were taken to the small village, which seems stuck in time. We ate a store-bought bento and got to work. The last time I did this, I was dressed in an apron and I had 2 jobs. Now, with the advantage of a third person, I had one extremely simple job. As we started our task, I began telling extremely long, nowhere jokes. And this is where the name Kafka was first mentioned. That's Franz Kafka for those non-linguistics in the audience. I have a light understanding of Kafka. When I was in Prague, his home, I visited many Kafka-related things, including his home. This place right here, house number 22. That's where Franz Kafka lived. Now they sell postage stamps in there. I also saw the giant statue that was outside of the city hall, which I'm told is very Kafkaesque. Wow, they really like Kafka here. Or just messing with your mind. I'm not too sure which one. But I have never read any of his works. But I have heard brief synopsises of his popular works, The Metamorphosis and The Trial. I think the most I've ever seen of him was referenced by Mel Brooks and the cult cartoon Mission Hill. Corey and Toko apparently had a deal where they would read The Metamorphosis, and I was left out of that conversation, so I was a bit lost. But I can tell you, as I planted and planted, I learned about the plight of Gregor Samsa, a man who finds himself transformed without explanation into a large bug. When he is transformed, all he can think about is how can I get to work? And he uses very mundane excuses to say he can't make it to work when he is physically a monstrous insect. I think I've been in similar situations before, except not being a terrifying bug creature. As we completed more rows, the complex conversation continued. The sun started to grow heavy in the sky. We were relieved of our duties and ventured up to the waterfall so we could dip in its cool water to physically chill out. And it was cold. Oh, God, it's like being in a horror movie. It's so cold! The refreshing dip in the freezing water was followed by a feast for dinner. The dinner was a mix of Japanese and Thai fusion. I think I'd appreciate it more if I could eat spicy foods. The feast was layered with a discussion of a short story that's found in Kafka's The Trial.
Before the law sits a gatekeeper. To this gatekeeper comes a man from the country who asks to gain entry into the law. But the gatekeeper says that he cannot grant him entry at the moment. The man thinks about it and then asks if he will be allowed to come in later on.
"It is possible," says the gatekeeper, "but not now."
At the moment the gate to the law stands open, as always, and the gatekeeper walks to the side, so the man bends over in order to see through the gate into the inside. When the gatekeeper notices that, he laughs and says,
"If it tempts you so much, try it, in spite of my prohibition. But take note, I am powerful, and I am only the most lowly gatekeeper. But from room to room stand gatekeepers, each more powerful than the other. I can't endure even one glimpse of the third."
The man from the country has not expected such difficulties. The law should always be accessible for everyone, he thinks. But as he now looks more closely at the gatekeeper in his fur coat, at his large, pointed nose, and his long, thin, black, Tartar's beard. He decides that it would be better to wait until he gets permission to go inside. The gatekeeper gives him a stool and allows him to sit down at the side in front of the gate. There he sits for days and years. He makes many attempts to be let in, and he wears the gatekeeper out with his requests. The gatekeeper often interrogates him briefly, questioning him about his homeland and many other things. But they are indifferent questions, the kind great men put, and at the end he always tells him once more that he cannot let him inside yet. The man who has equipped himself with many things for his journey spends everything, no matter how valuable, to win over the gatekeeper. The latter takes it all, but as he does so says,
I am taking this only so that you do not think you have failed to do anything.
During the many years the man observes the gatekeeper almost continuously. He forgets the other gatekeepers, and this one seems to him the only obstacle for entry into the law. He curses the unlucky circumstance in the first years thoughtlessly, and out loud later as he grows old he still mumbles to himself. He becomes childish, and since in the long years studying the gatekeeper he has come to know the fleas in his fur collar. He even asks the fleas to help him persuade the gatekeeper. Finally, his eyesight grows weak, and he does not know whether things are really darker around him, or whether his eyes are merely deceiving him. But he recognizes now in the darkness an illumination which breaks inextinguishably out of the gateway to the law. Now he no longer has much time to live. Before his death he gathers in his head all his experiences of the entire time up into one question which he has not yet put to the gatekeeper. He waves to him, since he can no longer lift up his stiffening body. The gatekeeper has to bend way down to him, for the great difference has changed things to the disadvantage of the man.
What do you still want to know, then?
Asks the gatekeeper.
You are insatiable.
Everyone strives after the law, says the man. So how is it that in these many years no one except me has requested entry? The gatekeeper sees that the man is already dying, and in order to reach his diminishing sense of hearing, he shouts at him.
Here, no one else can gain entry, since this entrance was assigned only to you. I'm going now to close it.
I tried my best to process the story, but maybe I'm so dense that I couldn't process what was going on in it. The moon rised higher in the sky, and we decided that it was time to pass out. The combination of the heat and the bugs that inhabited the land that we were temporarily on caused sleep to be black and dark and very, very itchy. When we awoke in the morning, there was more work to do. We put our boots on and headed back into the field. Maybe it was the Kafka conversation or the bugs that were on my mind, but I could see every time that we stepped in field, bugs would scatter out of the way. Every inch of dirt was claimed by a fly, spider, or an unidentifiable insect. We were disturbing the true owners of the land. Long after we are all gone, they will still be here. The thought of decomposing and death was juxtaposed with the simple act of planting new life. I tried to block out the first part of that in my head. Dark clouds formed over the mountains, and we decided that work was complete. We had a goal of rows, but like the gate in the tail, we never made it to the end goal. Corey mentioned that in Kafka's work, the idea of hope is very important. We hope to get the answers. We hope for something to happen, but we never get it. I'd say that the situation was Kafkaesque, but I've been told that people who say that are often idiots. I came out to this trip thinking that I'd be helping out my friend on his family farm, but I feel like I learned so much more about nothingness and the disappointing nature of life. But if I could go back in time with that knowledge, I think I would enjoy Kafka's Prague a lot more than I did. Who knew that planting soybeans could be so existential? If you guys ever find yourself turned into a giant insect, well, just tell work that you're sick. Or just say, you can do it, I can do it, we can all do it. You guys stay groovy, I'm a giant bug. Peace.